The top stories tonight in Wine News. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian demands that the Philippine government should honor its commitment and remove the grounded BRP Sierra Madre in the Ayungin Shoal, but Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana refuted such claim.
The Commission on Elections has released the guidelines for the conduct of in-person campaigning elective posts in the 2022 polls.
Former presidential advisor Michael Yan files a petition before the Supreme Court seeking to nullify the arrest orders issued against him by the Senate on the alleged questionable pandemic deals of the government.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, November 25, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. The BRP Sierra Madre at the Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea will stay, according to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. This is amid the demand of the Chinese government to remove the grounded Old Navy ship in the disputed territory. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
Citing the July 2016 arbitral ruling, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana stressed that Beijing's territorial claim over the West Philippine Sea has no historic nor legal basis. Lorenzana noted that the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, awarded the Philippines its exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea. Thus, China should abide by its international obligations. Secretary Lorenzana was reacting to the statement of Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian, demanding the Philippine government to honor its commitment and remove the grounded BRP Sierra Madre in the shoal. The DND official refuted China's claim and said he is not aware of such commitment. Lorenzana reiterated that Manila has two documents proving that it has sovereign rights in this EEZ while Beijing has none. 8 years ago, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hong Lei also said in a press conference in Beijing that the Philippines has an unequivocal commitment to remove the grounded Navy ship in Ayungin Shoal. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Four major political parties gave their support to presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bong Marcos, his running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio, and turned the BBM Sara unit team into the most formidable tandem in the 2022 national election. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
The Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, lakas CMD, hugpong ng pagbabago and pwersa ng masa, signed the Uniteam Alliance Agreement supporting the candidacies of presidential aspirant former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos of PFP and his running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte representing lakas CMD and HNP. Marcos called the coalition very significant, saying it will unite what he calls like-minded political forces in the country.
This is precisely the advocacy. This is precisely the ideology behind my candidacy, the candidacy of Mayor Inday. Together, we have come together on the basis of unity.
As your vice presidential candidate, I am proud of this agreement that powerfully illustrates leadership transcending throughout political colors.
Yesterday, lakas CMD adopted Marcos as its presidential candidate. Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso and his running mate Doc Willie Ong tested negative for illegal drugs after submitting themselves to a test. The Action Democratico aspirants were tested today at the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency headquarters in Quezon City.
Halimbawa, magiging pangulo ka ng bansa. Halimbawa lang, tapos isa sa pinakamabigat na suliranin ng lipunan ay droga. then how can you go against those illegal substance when you yourself is a user?
Meanwhile, Senator Panfilo Lacson rejected the call of Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian that the Philippines should honor its commitment and remove the BRP Sierra Madre in the Ayungin Shoal.
Huwag nating bayaan na iusog. Kasi nung gusto ng China palayasin yung Sierra Madre doon para talagang unhampered na yung kanilang pagkokontrol do sa Ayungin Shoal. So dapat, kung pwede nga, dagdagan natin ng tropa.
He said the BRP Sierra Madre, serving as an outpost of the Philippine Navy, should be refurbished and reinforced. Vice President Leni Robredo and her running mate Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan visited Cavite today. VP Robredo met her Caviteño supporters and volunteers. Other presidential aspirants including Senators Manny Pacquiao and Senator Christopher Bong Go have no reported public engagement today. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, 3 weeks after deciding to run as president in the 2022 national elections, Senator Christopher Lawrence Bong Go contemplates on his 2022 presidential bid. In a statement, Go said that in the past few days, he realized that his heart and mind contradict his own actions. He also thinks that maybe it is not his time and he is ready to sacrifice. Go emphasized that he is willing to make the supreme sacrifice for the good of the country and for the sake of unity among supporters and leaders.
Vice presidential aspirant Senate President Vicente Soto III has advised other presidential and vice presidential contenders to submit to the multi-drug testing of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA. Soto says he and Senator Panfilo Lacson chose to undergo the PDEA's drug testing because of its transparency. Unlike other drug tests being offered in clinics, there are quote-unquote unreliable.
So, nung ginawa namin yon, siniguro ko na unquestionable yung sistemang ginamit namin. At ang questionable is pumunta ka sa PDEA. Doon mismo, kasi may system sila kung paano gagawin. Hindi pa pwedeng basta drug testing center o kung saan clinic yan o ano. Hindi reliable yun. Una, yung drug testing kit na ginagamit, pang shabu lang or pang marijuana lang.
The senator adds it will be up to those candidates whether or not to retest with PDEA. Before this, other presidential aspirants, namely former Senator Bong Marcos and Senator Manny Pacquiao, made public their negative drug test results but from non-PDEA sources. While this morning, the tandem of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso and Doc Willie Ong went to the PDEA headquarters in Quezon City to undergo drug testing, yielding negative results.
The Commission on Elections has released guidelines for in-person campaign activities in the upcoming 2022 polls. Dante Amento will give us the details live. Dante, go ahead.
Good evening, Diego. The Comelec Resolution 10732 released today contains guidelines for the conduct of in-person campaign, rallies, political meetings or conventions, motorcades and caravans meeting the avance under the new normal for the 2022 elections. Under the rules, all candidates and participants are required to observe minimum public health standards. During in-person campaigns, entering any private dwelling, crowding that violates health protocols, handshakes will not be allowed. Taking selfies, distribution of foods, drinks, goods, and items, among others, are also prohibited. In areas under Alert Level 4 and 5, in-person campaign is not allowed.
But if you're alert level 3 or lower, then pwede na. Pag alert level 3, in-person campaigning, for example, a candidate or campaign leader may be accompanied by a maximum of 3 support staff. Whereas under level 2, that will be 5 support staff. Under alert level 1, which is basically normal, there will be no limit.
Conducting meetings, conventions, rallies, meeting the avance are allowed up to 70% of the venue's operational capacity. It will also depend whether the venue is indoor or outdoor, and it will also be based on alert level. Motorcades and caravans will have to secure permits from local government units to be submitted to Comelec and secure Comelec permit. There will be Comelec campaign committees that will implement the guidelines in regions, provinces, cities, or municipalities with the help of officials such as barangay tanods and members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines or the Philippine National Police if necessary.
Ano yung trabaho ng campaign committees? The first and probably the most consequential thing that the CCC will do is to classify category levels. You're aware na meron na tayong level 1, 2, 3 system, no, ng IATF. We will be mirroring that with our own category levels for the purpose of deciding kung gaano kahigpit yung restrictions sa in-person campaigning.
No election campaign activity will be allowed without prior approval from the Comelec campaign committees. Meanwhile, Comelec spokesperson Director James Jimenez stressed that violation of the rules on in-person campaigning will constitute an election offense.
This may result in imprisonment of not less than 1 year, but not more than 6 years, and shall not be subject to probation. It can result also in disqualification to hold public office.
Meanwhile, Diego, based on Comelec calendar of activities in connection with the 2022 polls, campaign period will begin on February 8, 2022 for the national candidates and March 25, 2022 for the local candidates. And that's our latest live from Quezon City. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you for that live report, Dante Amento from Quezon City.
Meanwhile, several senators have expressed confidence that the Senate Blue Ribbon will prevail over the petition filed by former President, Economic Advisor, and businessman Michael Yang before the Supreme Court. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
Former presidential economic advisor and businessman Michael Yang, through his legal counsel, attorney Raymond Fortun, has requested the Supreme Court to review the actions of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, saying that it violated his constitutional rights and acted with grave abuse of discretion in treating resource persons. This is in relation with the ongoing inquiry on the alleged questionable pandemic deals of the government. Yang is also seeking to declare as null and void the arrest orders and the immigration lookout bulletin against him. He also questions the legality of being compelled to produce documents and information that he believes have no connection to the subject of the inquiry and in violation of his rights to privacy.
Naniniwala po si Michael Yang na sa kanyang pagpunta sa Supreme Court ay maliliwanagan po ang lahat kung ano ba talaga ang kapangyarihan ng Senado at kung ito man ay lumalabag na sa kanyang tungkulin. Yung nagaganap po ngayon na investigasyon tungkol doon sa paggamit ng 42 billion pesos na tinanggap ng PSDGM mula sa Department of Health ay sa tingin po ni Mr. Michael Yang ay lumalabag na o sumusobra na doon sa mandato ng ating konstitusyon.
Senate President Vicente Soto III downplays the petition.
Ang tingin ko, walang kakwenta-kwentang style yun. Kaya-kaya ng Blue Ribbon sagutin yan.
Senator Panfilo Lacson, for his part, is confident that the SC will uphold the Senate's power to cite evasive resource persons in contempt.
Bayanan lang natin kumita yung abogado. Yun na naman sasabi ko. May jurisprudence na actually dyan eh. Marami ng sinabihan ng Supreme Court na yung power ng Senado na mag-cite ng contempt doon sa mga resource persons sa pagiging evasive. Kaya ang tinatawanan na lang namin without preempting yung future action ng Supreme Court. Pero yun ang pananaw namin dito na hindi magwawagi.
Senator Risa Hontiveros is also standing by the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, noting that the oversight powers of the Senate are well established in law and jurisprudence. She adds they will continue going after to those involved who have billions of unpaid taxes to the government to hold them accountable. Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairperson Senator Richard Gordon has yet to comment on Yang's petition. Yang will still attend the 15th Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing tomorrow via video conference. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine economy is getting stronger as its growth assumption for this year may likely surpass, according to an economist. Rosalie Cos explains why.
As the holiday season approaches and more businesses reopen, the Philippines is poised to end the year with a stronger economic growth. According to Chief Economist Michael Ricafort, the ongoing vaccination drive, gradual opening of the economy, and the continuing infrastructure projects are the growth drivers. He projects a 5% or higher full-year gross domestic product growth for 2021.
Ang estimate natin for the full year, pwede siyang umabot ng at least 5%. Siguro around mga 5.3%. Posible yun. Sa fourth quarter naman, pwede siya mag-grow yung ekonomiya natin year on year. Siguro possible kahit at least 6%. Pwede yun, mga around 6.2%. Kaya pwede yan mag-average. Pag in-average natin yung buong taon this year, nasa 5.3%.
The Duterte administration's full-year growth goal is only 4 to 5%. In the third quarter, the Philippines performed better at 7.1% year-on-year GDP growth despite 1.5 months of strict community quarantine. However, the economist said caution should still be applied to prevent another COVID-19 surge.
Siyempre, nandun pa rin yung pag-observe ng minimum health standard para to prevent the COVID from spreading further. Alam naman natin yung risk kasi kahit yung ibang bansa ngayon sa Europa, no, merong surge ulit, no? Kaya napaka-importante na mapanatili yung minimum health standards, yung mga health protocols.
Meanwhile, Ricafort also projects further economic growth for 2022 due to election season and if COVID-19 alert level system will de-escalate and target vaccination rate will be achieved. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
There are still no definite guidelines regarding minors visiting malls and other public places. To protect children from the COVID-19 virus, the Philippine Pediatric Society advises parents to avoid bringing their children to public places.
The recommendation of health experts to restrict minors visiting malls was based on the recorded COVID-19 cases among the pediatric population. According to the Philippine Pediatric Society, a high number of death incidents was recorded among children ages up to 4 years old compared to those aged 5 to 19 years old. Based on the data of the Department of Health, 403 deaths were recorded among the 0 to 4-year-old age group. Majority of those have comorbidities. However, there are also challenges for parents to have their children within the age bracket to conform with the minimum public health standards.
We're not saying that very young children are automatically supposed to be taken supposed to be thought to be at risk. We also have to realize that they're also the ones who are not able to comply with minimum public health standards. So I think yun yung importante nating tutukan. Kaya anong edad ka pa, kung hindi ka sumusunod sa MPHS, may risk ka.
As much as possible, the Philippine Pediatric Society advised parents should limit bringing their children ages 11 and below to places where they will be vulnerable to COVID-19.
Merong mga oras at mga araw na hindi siguro masyadong matao ang malls. Kung maaari, huwag tagalan yung pagpunta dun sa malls. Kung kailangan kumain at iiyak yung mga bata, mag-take out na lang. Pero kung hindi maiwasan, pumili ng isang restaurant na maganda ang ventilation at sumusunod ng maayos dun sa minimum public protocols.
The country already began its vaccination drive for children ages 12 to 17. However, vaccination for the lower age group is still not available. Meanwhile, the Metro Manila Council has left it to the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to decide on the guidelines to be implemented regarding minors in malls and other public places. So far, the IATF has yet to release its final decision on the issue. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III yesterday said that COVID-19 has been contained in the country with the positivity rate below 5% lower than the benchmark of the World Health Organization. However, health spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Berjeres said the COVID-19 pandemic in the country still cannot be officially declared as contained or under control. Aiko Miguel explains why.
The Department of Health spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Berjeres explained that there are determinants to consider before a country can officially declare that COVID-19 pandemic is under control.
We can't definitely say that. Marami pang uncertain sa nangyayari sa atin. Na-experience na natin in the past, no? Na napababa natin ang ating mga kaso, but after some time, tumaas pa rin. So kailangan natin ng longer period to assess and to evaluate what's happening.
The health official also said it is not yet time to declare this in the Philippines, as COVID-19 case trend can still change and a surge may happen again. Vaccination rate in a country is also considered, since regions in the country have different situations. Several regions have low vaccination rates, and their local governments still need further assistance to intensify their community response.
Kailangan din natin makonsidera meron pong iba't ibang settings at iba't ibang sitwasyon ang bawat regional area natin. So maaari na ang NCR, mataas na ang bakunahan dito, tapos ang ating community response has been intensified. But if we compare to other areas in the country, some of the areas in the country, mababa pa rin ang pagbabakuna, nakikita pa rin natin na kailangan pa natin tulungan ng local governments nila.
A country's health system is also a factor to declare if the country's situation is better. To officially declare that COVID-19 in the country is contained, it should be further evaluated.
Pangatlo, kailangan handa ang health system kapag nasabi natin na nakakapag-control tayo ng isang sakit. So, kailangan pang pag-aralan maigi, further studies, further evaluation because a lot of things are very uncertain at this point.
Meanwhile, the National Task Force Against COVID-19 Medical Advisor Dr. Ted Herbosa said that COVID-19 in the country is already eliminated if the positivity rate is at 0.
Pag ikaw ay nag-zero na cases for 2 weeks, nadideclare ka na COVID-free. I think medyo magdadalawang linggo na yata tayong below 5%. So, I think we can be labeled as controlled kasi walang masyadong new cases sa COVID. Pwede pa rin siyang mag-resurgence dahil nandun pa rin sa test positivity rate na above 0. Pag nag-0 yan, yun ang eliminated. So, yan ang paliwanag scientific explanation ng request ng Department of Health na makategorya tayo as controlled ang ating epidemic sa Philippines.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines today logged 975 more cases of COVID-19, pushing the nationwide tally of confirmed infections to 2,829,618. The Department of Health, or DOH, said the latest count brought the country's active cases further went down to 17,796. Of these cases, 52.7% are mild, 21.49% are moderate, 14.4% are severe, 6% are in critical condition, and 5.4% are asymptomatic. Meanwhile, total recoveries rose to 2,763,947 after 1,029 more patients recovered from the disease. COVID-related deaths, however, climbed to 47,875 with 193 new fatalities. All accredited testing laboratories in the country were operational on November 22nd, but 5 laboratories failed to submit data on time, the DOH noted in its report. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has reached 259,492,648, while the deaths have surged to 5,175,153, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The United States is the worst hit country with the world's highest number of cases and deaths at 48,091,937 and 775,397 respectively. In terms of infections, India follows with 34,544,882 cases and 466,980 deaths. In terms of deaths, Brazil comes third with 613,339 fatalities.
And for the news abroad, Europe is once more considered as the epicenter of COVID-19 pandemic, according to the World Health Organization. RK Yorka will tell us why live. Yes, RK?
Mariel, World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said on Wednesday that people misunderstood the protection that the vaccine offers, which led Europe back to the increasing number of COVID-19 cases.
We're concerned about the false sense of security that vaccines have ended the pandemic and that people who are vaccinated do not need to take any other precautions.
Ghebreyesus further warned that vaccination can save lives, but it does not stop COVID-19 transmission and that the pandemic is not yet over. One important point that Dr. Michael Ryan highlighted in yesterday's briefing was the relevance of having microdata available in the country in order to know what is the driving transmission and fatalities.
And I think maybe one of the things that Germany has done well, and particularly the UK has done well, is being able to have that micro data, knowing what's happening locally, at local county level, within the nations that make up the United Kingdom, and then having that overall view.
According to Dr. Michael Ryan, in most cases, what's driving high fatality and high hospitalization number is the low vaccination rate in vulnerable and immunocompromised people, which should be the priority. Europe reported 2.4 million COVID-19 cases last week, and as confirmed by WHO, more than 60% of reported COVID-19 cases and related deaths globally last week are from Europe. Based on the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, Europe has recorded 78.9 million cases and 1.4 million deaths since 2019. Mariel, the EU Public Health Agency recommended vaccine boosters for all adults with priority for those over 40 in a major shift from its previous guidance, which suggested that the extra doses should be considered for older, frail people and those with weakened immune systems. Back to you, Mariel.
Thank you, RK Yorka, for that live report. Hours after being appointed as Sweden's first female prime minister, Magdalena Andersson resigned after suffering a budget defeat in parliament, and her coalition partner left the two-party minority government. But Andersson said she had told the Speaker of the Parliament she hoped to be appointed prime minister again as the head of a single-party government. The Green Party said it would support her in any new confirmation vote in parliament, while the Center Party promised to abstain, which in practice amounts to the same as backing her candidacy. The Left Party has also said it would back her. After almost 2 years of being under strict COVID-19 travel restrictions, New Zealand has revealed its plans to allow New Zealanders and foreign travelers to enter the country early next year. Paul Gatalian will give us the details live. Yes, Paul, good evening.
Ariel, the easing of travel curbs will see New Zealanders finally returning home and international tourists visiting the country as long as they're fully vaccinated and adhere to quarantine measures by January 2022. COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins announced on Monday different phases of the reopening plan.
From 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 16th of January next year, fully vaccinated New Zealanders and other eligible travellers can travel to New Zealand from Australia without staying in managed isolation or quarantine. From 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 13th of February, fully vaccinated Kiwis and other eligible travellers can travel to New Zealand from all other countries. And then from the 30th of April onwards, fully vaccinated foreign travellers will be able to travel here, and this reopening step will happen in a staged way.
All travelers must self-isolate for 7 days and will be tested for COVID upon arrival. Hipkins called the stage plans the safest approach to ensure risk is carefully managed. Currently, the only New Zealand citizens and permanent residents are allowed to enter the country and are required to stay at government-managed quarantine hotels. The limited spaces, however, have kept most New Zealanders from returning home. Marielle?
Thank you, Paul Gatchalian, reporting live from New Zealand. A new clinical trial has found that undergoing cognitive behavioral sleep training may help prevent depression in older adults with insomnia. Joselito Liquido will tell us why live. Yes, Joselito, go ahead.
Good evening, Marielle. Cognitive behavioral sleep training, or CBT, teaches how to break bad habits in order to prepare our mind and body for a good night's sleep. Adults who had undergone CBT for their insomnia were 2 times less likely to develop depression. If remission from insomnia was sustained for 3 years, there was an 83% reduction in the likelihood of developing depression, according to the author of the study, Dr. Michael Irwin of the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. Sleep therapist Wendy Truxell finds the results of the clinical trial exciting, as it could mean that a sleeping pill is no longer needed to treating insomnia. The study's findings are highly significant because major depression is very common among adults. Numerous studies have shown that insomnia is a major risk factor for depression, and some 30 to 50% of older adults complain about insomnia. Marielle?
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Maria Latoza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
The Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board reminds public utility jeepney operators and drivers regarding the use of fuel subsidy granted by the government. Asher Kadapan Jr. explains why live. Asher, go ahead.
The Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board says it is important that beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pasada program maintain a good record. This is for them to continue receiving benefits granted through the said government program, while the transportation officials plan to implement a long-term subsidy system for the PUJ workers. LTFRB Regional Director Attorney Zona Tamaya says any public utility jeepney operator and driver not complying to the policies of the program will be removed from the list of beneficiaries.
Kaya ayaw ho natin na mangyari ho na ma-flag po, no? Tinatawag natin ma-flag yung kanilang account. Sa ngayon, kasi po we're looking at a long-term program for fuel subsidy. Kaya po yun po mahigpit at palagi ho nating pinapaalalahanan ho ang ating beneficiaries.
To avoid infractions in their records, the LTFRB reminds concerned PUJ workers to use the fuel subsidy only for the operation of the jeepney as public transport. The 7,200 peso fuel subsidy was recently disbursed by the LTFRB through the Land Bank of the Philippines to about 136,000 beneficiaries. About 85,000 of them already received the financial aid, while others have yet to receive their Pantawid Pasada cards. The agency emphasized that the financial subsidy disbursed to their Pantawid Pasada cards should not be used for any other intention or activity.
Pinapaalalahanan po natin ang ating mga beneficiaries na ito pong nakaload po sa inyong cards ay maaari lamang pong gamitin sa pag-purchase po ng fuel. Hindi po ito po pwedeng gamitin i-withdraw sa ATM or gamitin pambili ng ibang gamit. At ito po ay strictly fuel subsidy or para lang ho pambayad ng mga binili ho ninyong krudo.
The LTFRB reveals that they will be able to easily find out any violation on the end of any beneficiary. The Land Bank of the Philippines monitors and reports all the financial transactions of the Pantawid Pasada card users to the LTFRB. The agency warns violators that they will be summoned to explain the incident, which may affect their subsequent subsidy under the said program. Diego?
Thank you for that live report, Asher Kadapan Jr.
The Department of Labor and Employment investigates discrimination against workers who are yet to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Janice and Henta reports.
The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, reiterates that COVID-19 vaccine card is not a requirement for on-site workers and not a ground to remove employees from their jobs. According to Labor Standards and Special Concerns Cluster Regional Director Assistant Secretary Maria Teresita Cucueco, they have not yet received a direct complaint, but they are also investigating the report that a company has allegedly removed an employee who has not been vaccinated.
In all honesty, wala ho. Pero may mga complaints na ayaw nilang babakuna. Meron ho naging published report sa media na nagkaroon nga ng tanggalan, nagkaroon ng discrimination, galing din sa management. Inimbestigahan ho yan ng DOLE, pinatingnan ho na sa regional office at pina-inspect. Ngayon, ongoing po itong pag-iimbestiga nitong report na to.
However, DOLE clarifies that starting December 1, the no work, no pay rule may be applied to unvaccinated employees who are required to work on-site but refuse to undergo mandatory regular testing for COVID-19. DOLE again said that they will not force workers to be vaccinated even if they need to report physically at work. The department reminded employees that the employers will not pay for their swab test and will be at their own expense. That is why DOLE encourages employees to support and be vaccinated on the national vaccination days.
Yung milyong-milyong bakuna na nakarating na po sa atin sa lahat ng rehiyon natin. Talagang lahat po ng lugar sa bansa ay meron na. Yung munisipyo ninyo, tawagan nyo po ang DO. Alam ho nila kung saan doon ang vaccination site. Pero ngayon, inaayos na po na magkakaroon nitong, kumbaga, listahan ng lahat ng lugar na pwedeng puntahan para sa pagbabakuna. Pero at least, pwede nyo na hong tanungin sa inyong local government kung saan doon ang kanilang vaccination sites.
The government previously announced that employees who will be vaccinated from November 29 to December 1 will be exempted or not marked absent on their work. Janice and Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A 53-year-old grandmother received a gift from Members Church of God International, both for herself and her grandchild. Nina Armilio has the story.
Being both a mother and a grandmother is no easy task, but that's what Lainey Vista is to her granddaughter. In order to earn money for both herself and her grandchild, she needs a stable job, which she lost when the pandemic began.
Siguro sa isang buwan, nakakadalawa lang ako, hindi naman sasapat yun. Kasi ang singil ko naman sa therapy, 250 per head lang naman. Eh pag nakadalawa ka lang nun, di 500, sabi ko parang kulang. Yun talaga ang kinukulang kami. Naiiyak naman ako sa mga anak ko na mamerwisyo kasi pamilyado nga sila. Kahit sabihin may trabaho, minsan kinukulang din sila nagsasabi sa akin. Kaya lang, wala rin akong magawa. Kasi syempre, sabi ko, ako rin minsan dito nangihiram din. Alam niyo naman kako, meron din akong iniintinding bata pag nakakasakit.
Lainey, who used to be a massage therapist, is now an online tutor, thanks to her sibling who offered the job. But the 53-year-old grandmom is quite in need of a better equipment for her tutorial job, which she cannot afford.
Mag-tutor ka, lalo na may request ng mother na kailangan nakikita ako na nagtuturo para yung bata, nakikita rin niya ako na talagang totoong may teacher talaga ngayon na nagtuturo. Kaya minsan, nire-required din ng kapatid ko na kailangan, Ate Lenny, kausap mo yung bata, kaharap ka.
And this is one great opportunity for the members Church of God International to show that MCGI cares. Lainey was surprised with a brand new tablet, which she can now use for her online job.
Maraming salamat po sa tulong ninyo, maging sa kay Samantha May, sa amin. Talagang di po mahilabas, hindi ko po masabi lahat ng nasa puso ko, pero alam ng Panginoon lahat yun.
Lainey and her grandchild also received some MCGI free store items.
Nagpapasalamat po ako sa Panginoon dahil sa tinugon niya agad yung aking mga dalangin. Salamat din po sa pandagdag pang mga groceries na ibinigay sa amin ng MCGI. Salamat po ng marami sa Diyos.
For all these good deeds, to God be the glory.
Before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of 1 John, chapter 5, verse 3, it says, "For this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not grievous." And those are the reasons behind the news, November 25, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.